Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. My favorite place to be, maybe one of your favorite places to be. Today we're going to do a conceptual backflip, which we oftentimes do. And we're going to talk about a few things. One is why it's your responsibility to actually get what you want. The second thing is I'm going to talk about money neutrality, the greatest opening to money, because that, of all the concepts and questions that I get, the concepts you want to understand, and it comes back to money neutrality being something that you're wanting to incorporate into your life. So I want to help you do that. And then a story within my life that's going on that elevated sort of a giddiness and an excitement within the confines of, okay, dealing with our external world, which there's a lot going on right now, and how we can do that and not give up on our aspiration for financial freedom. How does that begin now? How does that begin and become something that we effortlessly incorporate into the way we live all the time? So this responsibility to get what you want, I can't even talk about this without just completely throwing myself in the fire here, because and the people who are close to me know that this is something that I willingly just own, which is I always get what I want. And that may sound like, oh my God, what a spoiled brat, which, I will admit there is that aspect of me. But for me, getting what I want is me living responsibly. And in the past, I could see how me getting what I want, there was some irresponsibility in it. But the more powerful, open, new version of me sees that that's actually the most responsible thing I can do always, because that's actually how I continue to open myself more and more to love. So if we are not getting what we want, then effectively what we're doing is, whether it is subtle, subconscious, whatever, there's an element of sacrifice there. Anytime there's an element of sacrifice, then you've moved away from unconditional love really being the only energy, love being the only energy that's out there, love being present only when it's unconditional. So the two kind of like, they fit together. What I used to do is I would just be like a bull in a china shop, and I would get what I want just by either navigating through situations in a certain way, using intelligence or, um, whatever to get things to kind of go in a certain way. And then I would be upset if they didn't. And then I would try something different, and I would try something different. Eventually, though, I would get a version of what I wanted. And so there's two ways to get to sort of navigate, I feel like. And we live in a binary world, right? It's always one side of the coin or the other. There's always the polarity of everything. So you can either get to things through rules and boundaries, which is effectively control, or you can get there by being boundless, I call it. And this is something that is I've been exploring in my life, which is how to be more boundless. And boundless to me means that you fearlessly are stepping beyond the edges. Now, what's changed is that I've always been boundless, but what's changed is I was irresponsibly boundless before. And I would say to a certain degree, I still am. It's just we're always moving towards it. It's a mountain with no top. I will continue to see these, and you can also say that these are inauthenticities that continue to reveal themselves to me. Now, the way I operate within boundless is I'm looking at, okay, I am a desire being. That's how we work. We desire something and we go towards it. How can I get what I want within the continuing exploring and consideration of other people's worlds as well. Now, what this requires me to do is to find new answers. It requires me to get outside of the way that I think that things should look, which that's great. That's by design because that's my own constraints anyway. And so we can feel boundless, but if we're still operating within the constraints and boundaries of what other people's version of that, or what we feel as though we need to sacrifice in order to get it, then that's a weaker version of boundless, I would argue. So in my responsibility of getting what I want, I'm expanding into my own greater consciousness, and I am also practicing and living into the unconditional love of others. What it causes me to do is I run into walls, my own walls of, but I don't want it to look like this. Instead of trying to make it look like that, I use the opportunity to come back in and go, well, how is love present here already? How am I maybe even getting a version of what I want if I'm willing to give up what it looks like? To me, this is the way to navigate life in a way that's real. Because when we're giving up something that we want, and it can be through people pleasing, all of this, then eventually there's going to be a day of reckoning with that. And then that day of reckoning feels like our life breaks. It feels like circumstances. Now, all that I'm explaining here to you is what I also call breaking the structure. And so breaking the structure is a concept within the SI method, which is the 5-part system that we teach inside the Spiritual Investor, whereby you are shining the light on your own boundaries, and then strategically positioning yourself in a way that could feel awkward, or like you almost have like on a shirt that's too small, so that you can move beyond it. Because what's going to happen if you don't, the world's going to show it to you anyway. You know this, and it will just be more and more extreme. The lesson will come in until finally one day that car accident happens, or finally one day that relationship has to break, or something like that. I'm of the belief that yes, all that stuff is going to continue to happen. That's just life. But I'm of the belief that I can operate within a I don't want to say a calmer bandwidth because it's not a feeling. It actually feels more effective, and it feels more grounded and centered. So instead, we've talked about the wave sign, like the polarity curve. Instead of being on the opposite ends, it's bringing it in, and you're operating more within the shaded bandwidth, close to the neutral point, right? Which would be the x-axis. So in order to do this, though, we have to be willing to live this way. And we have to be more curious about the exploration of this than we do getting what we want. Now, I'll say one of the big advantages for me is that I really don't live in time. Now, when you live in time, you really can't, I'm not going to say can't help. It's more challenging to not get what you want in the way that you want it because you feel the pressure of time. If you want it a certain way, then you want it to happen, or you want to see evidence it's happening, or you want proof, or you want validation and all that. And then suddenly your power gets sort of taken out of you and out into the external world. You might be trying to break the structure and trying to be, finding things a new way. But the moment you feel the pressure of time, it's kind of like you're getting taken down the river. And I had to train myself into not living within time. The training of that is actually what brought more power into what I'm able to offer inside the Spiritual Investor, especially the mastermind, where I have time to spend with you directly. One of the big powerful things inside the mastermind is that I don't really care about your story that you've come in with. That's great, but that's kind of a waste of energy. I work with you now in the present moment, and the way that I do that is I teach you how to get outside of time. That's when I see, and I see it, and I've done this hundreds of times now, where taking people outside of time, that's when you get that situation where people they're looking around. They don't have any questions anymore. And believe me, I ask. I even sometimes say, just tell me where you are. And it's like this feeling of you're so, you could call it whole in that moment, that you don't need anything. And you even don't even want to. That energy is feeling so magnetic and amazing within you that it's like you don't even really want to talk. Then the work begins from there, because that's when you have become new. Now, that's when you are more willing to navigate and to allow what other people need to become part of your plan. What I've found is that it's kind of a two-part thing for me. So I'm going into this internal concept of home for me is now becoming brighter and more proliferate, because I'm working with people who are helping me do that. All this is a co-creation, by the way. Secondly, through my navigation of getting what I want as a function of unconditional love, there's this really beaming, incredible feeling that I'm getting multiple times a day now through the holding of space of the people that are the closest to me, who I really love. And they are finding inside of that such safety to the degree that they, in some cases, have never felt, that they are building themselves up, because they're seeing that no matter how they show up, it's still the same. It's still that same love. And so they're being reflected back, that love part of their self, because they show up, let's say upset or something, and they're met with love. They're seeing that aspect of love, and then that gets taken away into the rest of their life. Now, I'm actually describing someone else's experience, but I'm actually describing my experience as well with them. And so what's happening is it's all becoming one. And the reason this is happening, we'll say one of the reasons, is because I'm willing to pull down alternate timelines, because we live in a parallel reality. I'm willing to pull down alternate timelines and allow my own awkwardness to be within the fact that they're not synced yet. And my awareness of that's really what's going on is the depersonalization of needing to fix it. Also, my knowingness that the way I was getting what I want before was there was a selfish aspect to it. However, it was perfect, because that was my lesson. That was my lesson to learn. And when I say selfish, I'm actually not giving myself a lot of credit here either, I will say, because the way that I've operated within my relationships, I wouldn't change a thing, the way that things went in my divorce, the way things have just gone family-wise, the way things it has all been operated with the maximum amount of love that I could have given. And I would say I've always been the observer in this, but my capacity has changed now. And I want to bring that up too, because it allows you to give people a pardon. It allows you to give people a break, because everyone wants to operate in full love. Everybody wants to just go out and feel this. And they're just operating at their capacity. And when you really see that, then you can stop seeing them as cruel or unkind, because that's not really the case. People aren't born into this world cruel and unkind. So the selflessness of this is the continuing to seek what I want within the consideration of others, which is love. And so it is my responsibility to continue on I'm kind of a freight train. It's my responsibility to continue my momentum as it occurs to others as a freight train, as it occurs to me is normal and just fine, all within the consideration of others. Now, as I've seen it now, I'm learning how to work with my momentum and others. And that's kind of where I'm at with it now. I don't even have anything more than that. And that in itself is a gift, because that will probably be my next place of looking. How this ties in with money and money neutrality for you is money neutrality is it's like you can superimpose the concept of money neutrality on that waveform frequency graph that I described for myself and the way that I'm operating in life. So the emotional spectrum is the same because money is just energy. And so money neutrality within your world would be, no matter what's going on, there is that feeling of home and that settledness. Now, you being one of the ways that you can get more towards money neutrality, and this is where the story kind of comes in, because we're getting the lessons through the reflection back, by the way, because we actually can't see how we have changed until we become the new version and then look back on it. Or if we are fully an open conduit, then we can see the reflection back of ourselves and others. So I had a conversation yesterday with someone who is the most powerful channel I've ever met in human form. Now, there are probably others that are more powerful, but you can't really rate that. I'm just giving you my experience of it. Her name is Christina Rice, and I've been on her podcast. She's been on my podcast. I met her a few years ago, and she feels the same about me, which I don't consider myself that or not consider myself that. I think the moment that I do consider myself some type of that, I bring it into the 3D and there's almost like a diminishment that occurs. When we met, we had both envisioned it the way that it would look in physical person. And it was exactly that. The room was exactly as I pictured it to be. This was the home she lived in before. And she pictured it the same way. And so there was no language needed. When we met, we hugged and there was no language. And there was a giddiness. There was a blissfulness, even when we went into her podcast studio and sat down and all the lights and the mic and the camera went on. It was like this feeling of we were pulling that energy through for the audience, but it was us. It was the love that we were feeling in of each other as well. Not a whole lot different than when I'm saying that love I feel multiple times a day, when I'm able to hold space for someone that I love, which even talking about it, like I can't tell you, I could do a whole podcast on this episode. So I was talking to her yesterday, and what came up is this conversation about how someone who is highly intuitive has full access to the market. Now, for someone who's highly intuitive and they just use their gifts for other reasons, like even highly intuitive, and I would say we're all intuitive, to be honest with you. It's just, have we discovered that aspect of us? Even so, we sort of start to categorize ourselves, which is the moment that we know something, our cease of our learning stops, because then we're not knowing beyond it. So with Christina, she knew she was clairvoyant at 6. She talks about this. All of her gifts came through, and she had ways of expanding those even as a child, and then she kind of shut it down, and then she came back into it. Now, what happened yesterday with her is suddenly, and it's like she has these big, beautiful eyes, and suddenly she was so excited because she felt it within her body that she suddenly, when I was talking about how I can feel the market and how when I pick stocks, I looked at the stock list the other day, it has an 85% return over the last 3 years. And, 10 of the stocks that I've picked recently have gone up between 400 and 1,000%. I always say I don't have a crystal ball, but I have something where I can energetically connect. And this is not privy to me. Everybody has this. It's just, are you open to that's a portal for you? Because once she realized that and she felt it, she's like, oh my God, it opened up a whole new channel for her. And even the things that she was dealing with in her life suddenly became like this big. And so it goes back to, we're not fixing the things in our life. We're pulling in more creativity, and because we are creators. And that in itself is what continues to get us more of what we want and ends up actually fixing the problem. So all this to say, Christina is now going to be in the next round of the Spiritual Investor Mastermind, which starts coming up here. If you're listening to this, we have a few spots left. There's only a few days left where you can get in. But what is going to be so powerful for me, because that's another thing, when you operate within an unconditional love, you're always being taken care of as well. To be able to now hold the space that I'm able to hold inside the mastermind and have her in there as well. I don't even know how I'm going to play and move with this energy, but I know it's going to be monumental. Every mastermind ends up being the most powerful one. We also have 2 other entrepreneurs in there who have already built the multi-million-dollar businesses, who already have a lot of the things and have done a lot of things that a lot of the other people in there are going to want to do, so they'll be able to be on board with their power as well. That's what I'm seeing, is that for myself, 2026 is all relationships. It always is to a certain degree, but the magnitude of my energy that I'm directing towards relationship has now superseded the magnitude that I'm putting towards individual goals, because I'm operating now at a level of greater consciousness, which is tapping into more of the collective, and that involves relationships. And what I'm seeing is that I'm not having to do a lot of this. Like we're now, we're working with a branding team that they don't work with people that with the size of business. They work with giant brands. How did they come into our world? They are so excited about working with us and being able to do something like this. The podcast, like even, what we've done with this podcast, and now bringing in new people to sort of, tell us what else can we do. We just got a message this last week where I'm going to New York this week, in 2 days anyways, just for a personal trip, but I'll be flying back there next month for a big interview. And my team's screaming into the messages, on the phone. And you know what I did during that? I'll share this with you, because I sometimes I want to bring in the experience of just what the way life is occurring for me as well, is when I heard our PR person literally going, "Oh my effing God," da da da, into the message. What happened was life slowed down for me, like I was in a movie. I felt the energy come completely within, and I felt this, I'm just going to say it's giddiness because I have no other word, of just her joy, because this is the pinnacle of her job. And sharing that energy with her, even before I heard what she was going to say. And it was so universally designed perfectly, because she took, it seemed like quite a long time, because I slowed down the momentum of it. It was like there was a savoring going on. It seemed like quite a lot of words before she got to what she was so excited about. And then to be able to share that with my team, I swear to you, that to me was and is as exciting as the actual event, which I didn't even realize this until I started working with other people and my own energy, and kind of I'm learning more about the way that I move energy around. I didn't even realize that I actually can already picture events and myself in events the way that they are. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so calm about. I can walk into a room of 250,000 and it feels like one, because it is one. it's already here, and there's no difference energetically for me being there and here because I can picture it so fully. And because I'm bringing this energy from within out, or sometimes what I do is I'll open myself and I will allow their energy in, because that is such a becoming more and more of a clean transaction. The ego self of me is less present there. Therefore, the validation, the nervousness, all that, well, it never really has been there, to be totally honest with you. But I'm sharing this because if this resonates with you in some way, that's why it's not there. So this whole thing is one thing. This is all one big conversation. Business, relationships, love, life, even the stillness that I'm bringing into my world today, because the last 3 days I have felt myself I'm calling it strung out, even though it's really not. That's an old word I used to use when I would get like, I don't get there. Not to say I won't, but I'm still using the old language as a function of being responsible for that. I'm now living in the new version of me, and I'll let the new language sort of, what happens is the new language sort of floats in. So I want to open you or invite you to, this year, yes, I know there's a lot going on in the market and there's a lot going on in the world. That is a polarity that's going on outside of you. You are the one who delegates your energy. And so you can be involved in that and not delegate your energy to it. That's number one. I want to offer you that. Number two is you have full access to money through the portal opening of money neutrality, because whatever you can energetically feel out there, you can apply that to money and the market. In other words, you have actually the greatest leverage factor out there when it comes to money, because money, when you operate in the new world paradigm, is effectively calling in energy, and then you use the 3D world in order to bring it in. So I call in the energy, and then I use the stock market to bring it in. And when I am using the stock market, then the stock market doesn't have any jurisdiction over me. In fact, the more I am letting it have the energy go that way, the more I'm actually seeing within it. The more I'm showing up unconditional, the more I see anyways, whether you're talking about money or whether you're talking about a relationship. So can you see how this becomes all one system? Because when I'm learning one area, I'm learning the other. And as long as I'm willing to not categorize it and compare it and get into results and time and all of that, it's really just the leaving of the 3D concepts behind, more so than it is getting better at learning how to use them. Getting better at learning how to use them is the old world paradigm. So I'm going to leave you with that. Take what serves you in that. Leave the rest. Listen to this again. However this lands with you, whatever part of this moves through you. And I will see you, if you're ready for the IV drip of this, I'll see you in the mastermind. And if not, I'll see you on Instagram. It's Elizabeth Ralph, or just go to thespiritualinvestor.com and you can see what else is there. So, all right. Thank you for sharing this space with me.